Hey there guys, so we are finally in October and I thought why not talk about my favorite Halloween movie. I'm pretty confident it's a Halloween movie, right? I mean it does have vampires in it. But just before we start, remember to subscribe to the channel. We are almost at 100 subs. Thank you guys, bye. Alright, so My Babysitter's a Vampire is a comedic horror movie first released in like 2010 on Disney Channel. And I'm not joking, by the way, it says comedic horror movie, which I guess back then as a kid, it was kind of a horror movie to me, so I'll let that slide. Now, over the past couple of years, I've been wanting to cover this movie, but I've never had like a perfect time to cover it. However, with it being almost Halloween, I thought, why not talk about what went wrong and what could have been with My Babysitter's a Vampire. Alright guys, buckle up because this is going to be a long video. Alright, I'm never saying that shit again, I'm so sorry. My Babysitter's a Vampire is very strange to me. As a kid, I loved the movie, and so did like everyone else on the internet. And honestly, this looks like your average teen drama with two best friends, a high school, the crush, and two random friends who don't get that much screen time. Now in this movie, there are three main characters. You have Ethan and Benny, who are best friends, and you have Sarah, who is a vampire. That's pretty much it. Now these characters were wrote to be very different than what you see in like Twilight or Vampire Diaries, which is good, but I could only imagine how this would have turned out if they had tried to copy what Twilight did. I'm sure it would have been worse. Now starting out, we see the whole plot within 10 minutes of the movie. Ethan's parents believe he is too irresponsible to watch his sister Jane, so they hire a babysitter who just so happens to be a vampire. Now Ethan, Benny, and Sarah must save the town from being destroyed by vampires. They have to do it by killing the powerful vampire Jesse, which we'll talk about him a little bit later, but that's a pretty cool plot if you think about it. Now in the movie, we do see the lore behind the town Whitechapel and why Jesse wanted to take it over, and also this is hinted a lot in the show. I think there's something about teen horror comedies that are really fun and stupid for the most part, and that's kind of what this movie is all about. Now, no, I'm not saying that this movie sucks, which it doesn't, but I am saying even though I really like it, I understand that it is bad. While the acting may be better than your average Disney movie, that really doesn't matter because the movie is still dumb. I believe the same thing for Twilight, and I really like Twilight, so that's just how it is. Even though I may personally enjoy it, I know there's a lot of people that critique these movies and kind of think that they're stupid. Now, I would say you could fix this movie, but I don't think you can. The shows and movies that were coming out in 2010 embody what this movie and the eventual show are. They are cringy, middle-of-the-ground dialogue with decent acting and charismatic characters. This formula is repeated through so many different high school shows, kind of like Riverdale and stuff like that. And I think by the time you're done watching all of the content, you're kind of thinking, wow, why did I like this show? But I think for what My Babysitter's a Vampire is, it really does what it was supposed to do. It sparked a show, it made a lot of money, and at that point, they accomplished their goal. Now, of course, most people don't see anything wrong with the movie, and I think that there is some personal nitpicks I could do, and I'm sure the internet has issues, but that goes nowhere at this point. You're just trying to steer away from the fact that this movie is good, so I don't really believe in listening to every single bit of internet opinions, even though I'm doing that. This movie, and even going into the show, has very well balanced and interesting characters, and it opens a lot of holes that practically make you need a TV show. And that's where the problems start. My Babysitter's a Vampire, Season 1. I'm sure we can say a lot of things about this season: the lackluster start, some insufferable episodes, and a very dramatic tone. The first season is just a lot of randomness and weird kind of character arcs they take these characters in, and most of these stories or adventures that they're going on isn't really canon until the last episode of Season 1. And after that, we actually get a very good and concise story. Season 1 is definitely the weakest season. It really does feel like it's trying to find its identity, which for bigger shows like Vampire Diaries or whatever, that's fine. However, when the company that is giving you the power to have a show is Disney, then you would probably want every episode to be good. Disney is known for canceling good shows and even slower paced shows as early as 2 seasons, which is what they did to this show pretty much. It's pretty unfortunate how it did end. However, Season 1 does have positives. This is definitely the funniest the show has ever been, and there's so many scenes where Benny will just casually be the funniest person in the room. I'm not joking, I can maybe count 3 times where a scene was funny that Benny wasn't in. Now, I'm not saying that Benny is the best character and you have to have him in every single scene, but I do think that when the show has a lot of drama and plot-initiated episodes, it's pretty good. But when it's at its funniest, it's really good. And it just so happens that Benny is the main one being funny. Now, Ethan as a character is pretty good. He's more laid back and more of the brains of the group, while Sarah is just the weapon of the group at that point, which you would think that on paper this trio shouldn't work, but it does. Now, I know I didn't really talk specifically about the movie as much, and that's mainly because I don't really have complaints about the movie. If you take any episode from season 1 or 2, nothing's going to compare to the movie, because the movie is really good and there's not a lot of things I can even critique about it, because what it was trying to do, it succeeded and more. So why would I nitpick it for random things that I don't see wrong with the movie? Now, going back to the TV show, I think that a big upside to having a show, it implements a lot more chemistry in the show. You get to see a really good amount of characters bond over 2 seasons. Benny and Erica get closer but never actually do anything, and Ethan and Sarah get really close and even go on dates, which we'll talk about that later. What I'm saying is, with the added show, it makes these characters carry the show. Yeah, the writing is a little bit better than anything at Disney, but the cast and characters really do make this show. The first season, they were really trying to find their place, which is pretty understandable, but it causes an immediate tone shift in season 2, which could turn a lot of people off of watching the show. Especially if you were more used to the more lighthearted and comedic tone of season 1, season 2 is going to be a big dramatic shift. Now, a good thing about season 2 is it introduces new characters and a literal council of vampires. Wonder where they got that. With these new characters, a new plot starts, and an evil wizard, and I'm not joking by the way, starts trying to end the life of everyone at Whitechapel, which is kind of crazy, which is a lot to take in, I understand, but this is kind of insane. Now, the season turns out to be the darkest the show has ever got. This season turns out to be the darkest the show has ever got, and was turning more into a drama than a comedic horror, and it really does have me thinking, what could have been with this show? Now, season 2 is really disappointing, but not for the reason you think. I liked season 2, but Disney, they definitely did not. They decided they would cancel the show on its second season, causing everyone who had watched this show previously to be left on a cliffhanger. Great. This was pretty shocking considering the ratings were relatively higher than most of the Disney original shows, so high that people like me are still crying about the fact that we did not get a season 3. Disney did say that the ratings were the reason the show was canceled, but I find that pretty hard to believe. The show was really successful and one of the better movie to show transitions that we have seen in the last 10 years. I do like to think that it ended good for our characters that we spent the last 3 years following. Vanessa Morgan even tweeted out saying, "My Babysitter's a Vampire season 3, anyone? #Disney." And that was in 2016. It's been 7 years since then, so I don't think we're getting another season. Now, I have thought that since we do have Disney Plus, why don't they just reboot some of these older shows? And I gotta say, I don't really know about it. I know that a lot of my childhood shows that ended up getting rebooted were really bad, like Girl Meets World, which we'll talk about that one day, and the Johnny Test stuff that was on Netflix, it's pretty bad too. So I don't really know how I would feel about a reboot, considering that also half of these people don't even act anymore. But now on to the reason you clicked this video, My Babysitter's a Vampire, what went wrong? Now, since there was no official statement, I would say it's because of how dark the show was getting. Disney was moving on to more kid-friendly things at the time and probably decided to just throw it away. Since this show was canceled, I don't think I've seen them have a show that was quite like this, or even a movie. I mean, they don't even air Mostly Ghostly anymore on Halloween, and that's pretty crazy. There were plenty of episodes that I would call sort of disturbing, like Lawn of the Dead being one, which I'm pretty surprised was even aired on Disney Channel. Also, the Demon episode is probably not suited for everyone. And if you guys don't remember, Lawn of the Dead, they bring back dead animals and then they end up killing them later on in the end. Now, the one thing I will say is that this show really did push the limits, and that's what ultimately caused the show to be canceled, at least that's what I think. And it does suck because there was a huge waste of potential for the franchise. I think Sarah and Ethan, they were finally getting together. Benny was discovering his powers and Ethan was getting powerful and learning new abilities. This could have been a big thing to capitalize on, and it would have been, and I'm sure it would have been really good. This was honestly going to be a pretty great show from what I was watching. I wish we could have just seen the actual finale they had planned. But who knows, maybe one day we'll actually hear or even get a leaked script of what could have been. But until then, boys, it's been Nick. I'll see you guys later. Peace.